So now we're going to practice adding and subtracting with unlike denominators. And if you look at this, well, here are some lessons that you really need to they should be habits. You know, as soon as you see a problem, you need to do this. First thing you should do, you should reorder. How? Reorder in descending order. Now, what does that mean? Descending order. Well, let's say first of all, we had x plus 5x squared minus 2. Descending order means you have to do it 5x squared plus x minus 2. Okay, this is the correct order that you should have put. Now, if we had something like this, where you just have two variables, basically, I would always put the variable that goes first in the alphabet on the left side, because you read left to right. So in this case, y minus z is yes. It's in the correct order. But z minus y is not in the correct order. You probably want the y before the z. So, if you have to rewrite it, you should write minus y plus z. Why is it minus y plus z? Because we have a negative y here and a positive z there, which means you can just put plus z and negative y. And that does not go against the laws of mathematics. That is perfectly fine to do. So, that's the first step always. Anytime you get these denominator kind of problems, you reorder the problem in descending order whenever you see a variable. Okay? This comes for all problems, factoring problems as well. Now, second thing you should do is we have the 5y minus z minus 5z minus y. And we reordered this 5 right here to 5 over negative y plus c, right? Any time that first term after you finish reordering has a negative sign, you always take out negative 1. Factor it out. Always. So we're going to take a look at this. We have 3 over y minus z minus 5. And then if we had, let's see, it was negative y plus z after we reordered it. Oh, I see this first term has a negative sign. So let's take it out. If I was just reordering it, and then taking out the negative 1, negative 1 times what equals negative y? Positive y. Negative 1 times positive y equals negative y. Because remember, you're just rewriting it. That's what factoring is. Minus negative 1 times what equals positive z times negative z. So all I did was just take out the negative 1. And look, here's the way you rewrite it. So now what do? After you do this, you're going to have to see, oh, how do I make the actual same denominator now? And you can actually see it for this one. The only difference is that one has a negative 1 in front of it. So what are you going to do? Well, you just multiply this term right here, or this term right here, by negative 1 over negative 1. What are you going to do? Which one do you want to pick? Doesn't matter. So let's just pick the second one. So we had 3 over z minus z minus 5. We rewrote it, negative y plus c. And we're going to multiply both the top and bottom by negative 1. Why do we have to multiply by negative 1 over negative 1? Why can't we just multiply the bottom by negative 1? The thing is, when you're multiplying, you can't change the original problem. If I multiply just the denominator by negative 1, that means I'm just making up my own problem. I'm just going like, oh, okay, I can just put a negative 1 here and do whatever with it. But negative 1 over negative 1 is what? Negative 1 over negative 1 is positive 1. Anything times 1 is the number. So you're not changing the equation. That's whenever you multiply like this, whenever you try to find a common denominator like this, you always got to make sure whatever you're multiplying by equals 1. Could be like 2,355, as long as it's over 2,355. So it's multiplying it by 1. Now let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. We have 3 over y minus c minus 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Negative y times negative 1 is positive y. And -1 times z is -z. Very important. You gotta do the distributive property here. Okay, when you're multiplying this this entire thing in red by -1. You're not just multiplying z by -1 or -y by -1. The whole thing. So we end up with this equation below. And the equation below has the same denominator. Hooray! So we can go ahead and add it. So I'm going to just do it on top. So we have 3 over y minus z. And what? Minus -5. So it becomes positive 5 over y minus z. So why did the negative sign only go to the top? Well, it didn't matter if it went to the top or bottom. But it could only go to one of them. It can't go to both of them. Much like, here's a little mini lesson right here again. We have 1/2, -1/2 equals -1 over 2 equals 1 over -2. Yeah, there's just one negative sign there. But, I mean, it doesn't matter if you go to the top or bottom, as long as there's just one of them. So, let's go ahead and add it. What's 3 plus 5? 3 plus 5 is 8. And if y minus z is in the denominator, then that means you just keep the denominator whenever you're subtracting or adding fractions. So, 8 over y minus z is your final answer. Now, let's review what you always have to do in these problems. Number 1, you reorder. You reorder the problem. Let's say, let's do another example real quick. Let's say it was like, x minus y minus z, and there is a z plus x minus y. And, what they wanted to do, 1 over x minus y minus z minus 1 over z plus x minus y. Well, all you gotta do is you gotta reorder them. So we still have x minus y minus z. And in this one I would do x minus y plus z. You really gotta understand the concept of reordering in descending order. Oh yeah, and whenever it's quadratic, remember, you always gotta do the squares, and then the one with so x squared plus x plus just the number. Or, y squared plus y plus the number. Second thing you always have to do, if there's a negative sign, if there's a negative sign in the first term, that means what? Factor it out. Always factor out that -1. Okay? So these are the two must-dos whenever you, do factoring, whenever you have to add or subtract with unlike denominators. These are two important steps you always got to do. And there you go.